the column chromatography, we need to start with the packing of the column. And you'll start with the 5 gram of silicon gel, put it in a beaker, and then put about 50 ml hexane to make a slurry. The 50 ml is roughly, if you use 10 ml or 40, even 40 ml, that's also fine. And you stir, make sure the silicon gel suspended very well in the beaker. And after that, you need to have your column ready. So get a clean, dry column. Pack with a small piece of cotton. Use a glass rod to push the cotton to the bottom. And then put a thin layer of sand on top of the cotton. This cotton is not flat yet. So just to make sure the cotton surface is relatively flat. And on top of that, you pour the sand. And then you tap a little bit. Make sure the sand has a flat surface. And after that, you clamp it. Okay, clamp it to the arm stand. And now this is about time you can add hexane solvent. Hexane is the least polar solvent in today's experiment. So we start with the least polar one. And use a cock ring to tap it. Make sure you have a flat surface. And then drain the solvent a little bit. And at this point, we are about to add a silicon gel slurry. And you make sure you have about 1/3 of hexane in your column. And you shake, or stir the slurry. And make sure it mixes very well. And then try to dump it through the funnel into your column. And make sure the solvent doesn't overflow. And you open the stopper. And you'll see the silicon gel start to settle down in the column. And at this time, you need to tap your column with a cock ring or a rubber stopper that also works. So this step will make sure the silicon gel packed nice and tight and evenly. So you can use a little bit of air to push the solvent through the column. This will make the elution much faster. So you attach the adapter to this air hose and then open the orange valve on the side of your hood. And you hold this stopper on top of your column and then gently touch it. And the air pressure will push the hexane flow much faster. So we have some hexane left, and then now we start to load the remaining silicon gel. It's hard to pour all the silicon gel into the column at once, so you can put some hexane back. This hexane is still clean, so you can reuse it. And then make sure the silicon gel mix very well, and you suspend it. And then dump it quickly through the glass funnel. Overflowed. Since this is our last portion of silicon gel, and it's okay to remove the funnel after that. And then do the same thing as you did before. Use a cock ring to tap the column gently. after most of the silicon gel settle down on the bottom, you can use the air to push it. Use too much air. So adjust the air flow, not too much, otherwise the solvent will spill everywhere. So we have half of the hexens left, and we need that hexens to do the next step to load a second layer of sand. And notice, before you do that, your silicon gel surface should be nice and flat. If you have an irregular surface, do the same. Use your caulk ring to tap it. Make sure the surface is nice flat. And then you have your sand ready in the wing paper, and you pour it gently and slowly through the top of the glass column. And the hexens will hold the sand and then lower it down slowly to the surface of the silicon gel. So you'll have a nice flat surface. And don't pour your sand too hard or too quick. And now we can put more hexens. Okay, so at this step we finish the packing, and the next step is to do the sample loading. And before you actually start to load any sample, you make sure your solvent surface it touch the surface of the sand. So to do that, we need to use air to push the solvent through. So the hexen surface is going to reach the sand, and now need to be very careful. And now we need to remove the air pressure, and then let me raise the column a little bit so you can see it clear. So this is the surface of the sand, and this is the surface of the solvent, and they kind of touch each other. And this is the position you want before you start loading any sample. So we have the column ready, and the next is to prepare your unknown solution. Your unknown is provided in a little vial, and don't forget to take the weight of the vial and the sample together. You need to calculate the recovery rate. So we have the unknown ready, and we use the least amount of methylene chloride to dissolve it. Methylene chloride is polar, it's a medium polarity solvent. So if you use too much methylene chloride, that will pull your compound down the column without any separation. So make sure you use roughly about 0.2 to 0.5 ml methylene chloride. So now the sample solution is ready. And I take the solution through the glass pipette. And then load the sample around the inside wall of your column, so the sample layer will stay evenly. And then open the stopper to drain the solvent, and let the sample go through the sand layer to absorb on your silicon gel. At the same time, you can add a little bit of hexens to rinse your sample. Okay. So we have about 1 ml hexens in the vial to rinse the vial and rinse the pipette. And you add the rinsing to this column. hexane is non-polar, so if you add too much hexane, that's okay. It's not going to separate the compounds, bring compounds down. Okay, now you see all the samples are absorbed on the silicon gel. Now it's about time to actually elute your sample.
Column chromatography is a commonly used purification technique in organic synthesis. It can be used to separate mixtures of compounds.
Prior to the column chromatography, we synthesized fluorine by oxidizing fluorine using sodium dichromate as an oxidizing agent. You will use column chromatography to separate the product, fluorine, from the reactant, fluorine.
To begin, use a burette clamp to secure the column to a ring stand. Make sure that the stopcock on the column is in the closed position. Insert a glass funnel into the top of the column. Place an Erlenmeyer flask beneath the column.
Prepare the alumina slurry by slowly adding 15 milliliters of hexane to 8 grams of alumina powder while swirling the mixture. Use a glass rod to mix the slurry. Pour the slurry into the funnel at the top of the column. Continue swirling and pouring the slurry. Use a rubber stopper to tap the column to release air bubbles as the slurry is added. More hexane can be used to add the remaining alumina to the column. Open the stopcock. The excess solvent collects in the Erlenmeyer flask placed beneath the column.
When all of the alumina has been transferred to the column, drain the excess hexane until the solvent line reaches the top of the alumina. Close the stopcock on the column. Remove the glass funnel. Make sure to reuse the hexane collected to prevent wasteful use of solvent.
Add a layer of sand to the top of the alumina. This keeps the alumina from being disturbed when more solvent is added to the column. It only takes a small amount of sand. Pipette hexane around the top of the column to wash the sand off the glass. Drain any excess solvent from the column so the solvent line reaches the top of the sand and close the stopcock.
Dissolve the crude product in a small amount of dichloromethane.
Add this to the top of the column by carefully pipetting the solution around the edges of the column, allowing it to run down the sides. Slowly add hexane and continue to drain the solvent of the top of the sand until a yellow band appears at the top of the alumina. Drain any excess solvent from the column so that the solvent line reaches the top of the sand. Close the stopcock. Remove the beaker of hexane.
Carefully add approximately 40 milliliters of hexane to the top of the column. Drain and collect 4 10 milliliter fractions in separate beakers. Number these fractions to keep track of the order in which they were collected.
After the collection of 4 fractions, you can see that the yellow band has moved about 1/3 of the way down the column. At this point, increase the polarity of the solvent to elute the yellow band more quickly. Change the solvent to 20% dichloromethane, 80% hexane. Continue to collect 10 milliliter fractions until the yellow band has completely eluted.